it's very important to bring both your right brain and your left brain into play in your role in any data-driven domain. You could be a data scientist, you could be an analyst, you could be a data engineer, you could be a chief data science officer, you could be anyone in that whole stack, or for that matter, you could be anyone in the organization today, because by the virtue of this logic where I said every company is a data company, every professional today is a data professional. You say that, okay, I'm a creative person and I'm an art director. Okay, I design things, right? Or I'm a designer. You're still a data person, because today everything you do has a data impact. Whether I choose design option A or design option B or design option C, you run an A/B test to figure out what works better.
Sure.
Whether blue is better than green is better than red. You do an A/B test, you see the user behavior on those three options, and you see, okay, users seem to be liking green over red. So then I'd probably use green in a certain context, or users seem to be liking red over green in a certain context. So I'd end up using red, right? So it entirely depends on how data literate you are, no matter what your area of expertise is. And if you're not data literate, you're missing out. So again, it doesn't just apply to data professionals, it applies to everyone. You need to be data literate. You need to know how data impacts your work. You need to know how you can measure and quantify your work and how you can present your work better, because that's when you'll be able to grow in the kind of work that you're doing and grow in your career as a professional as well. So very important to consider this first fact, that every professional is a data professional. And the second aspect is, so therefore, what are the necessary skills to be a good data professional? Now, if I'm a database engineer or I'm a data scientist and I'm building models, of course, my data is, my job is a core data job. So I obviously need to be a lot more data literate than a digital marketing manager who just needs to know a little bit about data that helps him or her do their job well, right? So the intensity of your data literacy could vary depending on what your roles are. But you still need to be above a base cutoff in your data literacy to be able to leverage data in any domain that you're in. That's going to be a critical success factor in whatever it is that you're doing. So that's point number one. Point number two is you have to really be very creative. Okay, today as a data scientist, you don't just need programming skills. You don't just need coding skills. Today, all code is available on the internet. Most of the applications are open source. You have GitHub, which is a global repository of all the code. So technically, if you want to build a model today, you have all the code that you need on the internet available for free for you to build a model and run with it. You can take out any code base from the internet, customize it, add your variables, modify the code, make it your own, and run with it, right? So technology per se is no longer, some sort of a knowledge advantage. It's parity. What really is a knowledge advantage is your ability to use that knowledge, is your ability to solve problems, is your ability to think creatively, which is what ties back into my earlier point about left brain and right brain. You have to bring your right brain into play as well. You can't say that, hey, like I said earlier, you can't say that, hey, I'm a creative guy, I have nothing to do with data. It applies vice versa as well. You can't say I'm a data guy, I have nothing to do with creativity. No. Even if you are an engineer, you will be a better engineer if you are creative, if you have better problem solving skills, if you have better understanding of how to deal with a certain situation. And that requires you to be creative. That requires you to think out of the box. That requires you to challenge assumptions. That requires you to rearrange patterns in different ways to create dramatic value. Otherwise, you're just going to be at the same level as everyone else, or you're just going to be incrementally better. You put 5 data scientists in a room, give them a data problem. They'll all probably build the same kind of models, which will only be different from each other by a certain level of accuracy of its output. That's it. Someone will be at, let's say, 80% accuracy. Someone will be at 82% accuracy. Someone will be at 78% accuracy, right? Because they're all using the same tools, the same techniques, and the same approaches, right? Because it's all analytical. To solve the problem different, to break new ground, to really bring about a tectonic shift in value, to be more effective rather than being efficient, you have to start asking questions that no one else is asking. You have to start looking for answers that no one else is looking for. Now, this doesn't mean that you have to do that for the sake of being different. You have to do that because that's the only way you can be effective rather than efficient. And when you become effective, you can solve a problem that would ideally take 1 year to solve in, say, 3 hours, because you came up with an idea which was way more radically different than what the conventional thinking around that subject was. And if you can bring that quality in everyday work, if you can bring that ability to think creatively, think analytically, wear those different hats. There is this beautiful book that Edward D. Bono wrote about 6 thinking hats. Look at every problem from 6 different perspectives and so on. Just to draw a little element from there, it's important to look at the problem from these different perspectives. It's important to have the analytical hat on at times. It's important to have the creative hat on at times. It's important to have the design thinking hat on at some points in time. It's important to have the execution hat on at some points in time. And a confluence of all of that makes you a better professional in the data field in terms of the kind of impact you can create, right? And at the end of the day, it's really about how you can keep getting better at it. Right. And this is again a democratic opportunity. Everyone can get better at it. It's not, some people are inherently creative. Some people are not inherently creative. If you're not inherently creative, you can work towards becoming creative because there is enough knowledge, enough data, enough content out there that can inspire you to really become better at anything that you want to become better at today. So I think that's really how I would want to look at it from a data science skill set perspective and what people should do to get better at their data skills. Yeah.
That is such a nice perspective that you brought to the table about data literacy, and that now that we live in a data-driven world, that element of data literacy is required by people across functions and across levels. And the intensity of that data literacy, may vary. So that was a really interesting thing that you highlighted, Dhaval. Thanks for doing that.
Just want to chime in again with one quick point in that context, right? From a data skill set perspective, something which is not, again, emphasized enough is this ability to be a good storyteller using data, right? You can be good with data, but if you're not able to build stories using data, then you're not bringing your data knowledge to the level of impact that it's potentially capable of, right? And that's another skill that people should really get better at. Like, how do you tell great stories using data, right? Because at the end of the day, all great leaders, whether in business or in politics or in any realm of human existence, have been great storytellers. Everybody who's really made an impact on the cosmic scale of human evolution has been a great storyteller. And in the data age, how do you take your storytelling game to the next level? By leveraging data to become effective storytellers.